In 2021, the gaming giant Krafton acquired Us Known Worlds in a high-profile transaction designed to secure one of the industry's most successful development teams. The deal utilized a dual-tiered payment structure, a guaranteed $500 million base payout, and a $250 million conditional earnout tied to future studio performance. But exactly 258 days before that earnout period was set to expire, Krafton terminated the CEO of the acquired studio. This triggered a legal shockwave that ended in the Delaware Chancery Court, resulting in a rare judicial intervention into post-merger management. After reviewing the circumstances of the firing, the court found that the termination of the CEO was executed without legitimate cause. The court ordered a drastic remedy, the forced reinstatement of the CEO, and a mandatory 258-day extension of the earnout period.
This ruling established that even a signed acquisition agreement cannot insulate a buyer's management decisions if those decisions appear to clash with their financial obligations to the seller. To understand the conflict, we have to look at how earnouts actually function. They are designed to bridge the valuation gap between a buyer's conservative bid and a seller's high expectations. Once the deal closes, operational control of the target company shifts entirely to the buyer. This creates a structural paradox. The buyer controls the company's destiny, but carries massive financial liability if the company hits its growth targets. In this scenario, a buyer theoretically benefits from suppressing performance just enough to miss the payout trigger, saving themselves millions. While an earnout is a precise mathematical solution for a deal, it introduces a structural moral hazard that the parties must live with post-closing. Legal teams attempt to draft around this hazard using specific contractual language. In the Krafton deal, the equity purchase agreement contained two competing clauses. First is the shield. Section 2.7 EI1 explicitly states that Krafton is not obligated to operate the company in a way that maximizes the earnout payment. This is intended to give the buyer absolute operational discretion, preventing the seller from second-guessing every business decision. But then there is the sword. Section 2.7 EA prohibits the buyer from taking actions where the primary business purpose is to deprive the sellers of their payment. The entire dispute hinges on that specific standard, primary business purpose. Removing a CEO is the ultimate operational intervention because it instantly removes the people most capable of guiding the company toward those targets. The Krafton case shows that no shield clause provides absolute discretion if the exercise of that power looks like intentional sabotage. This creates a core challenge for the trial's second phase. How does a seller actually prove the primary purpose behind a firing? Direct proof of sabotage is almost never found in formal board minutes or official corporate resolutions. Instead, the evidence of bad faith is found in the digital footprints left behind, internal emails, chat messages, and server data. In discovery, the sellers identified a Krafton task force, internally dubbed Project X, which was focused on the risks of the studio hitting its earnout targets. Most damaging was the revelation that a buyer's executive used ChatGPT to query strategies regarding the management of these earnout liabilities. These footprints can neutralize a contract's protective language by revealing an intent that contradicts the legitimate business discretion argument. If a CEO is fired for verifiable misconduct, the buyer is protected. But when the internal discussion centers on the payout itself, the defense crumbles. In these disputes, the battlefield shifts entirely from what the contract says to what the executives did behind closed doors. This vulnerability to judicial oversight isn't just an American phenomenon. The Korean Civil Code contains a parallel framework in Article 150, which deals specifically with the interference of conditions. Under Article 150, if a party who would be disadvantaged by a condition prevents its fulfillment in bad faith, that condition is legally deemed to have been fulfilled. This flowchart shows how both Delaware law and the Korean Civil Code converge on the same point. There is a penalty for sabotaging a deal's conditions. Both systems prioritize the same question: can the seller prove causation? Proving causation does not require the seller to demonstrate with absolute certainty that the targets would have been met. Instead, the standard used in Korean Supreme Court precedents is substantial probability. This standard weighs the buyer's interference against market variables to determine if success was reasonably likely. An act as severe as firing the CEO without cause tips the scale, making it much easier for a court to find that a substantial probability of success was derailed. Regardless of the country, courts focus on the causal link between a bad faith act and a missed financial target. As the Krafton case enters its second phase, the operational and financial stakes are high. Phase 1 only addressed the wrongful termination. It put the CEO back in his seat, but it didn't settle the debt. Phase 2 will determine if that termination was a breach of the earn-out interference clause. If a breach is found, the court will calculate the monetary deprivation, with potential damages scaling up to the full $250 million. For an acquirer, having a court order a hostile executive back into the company while calculating millions in damages is a worst-case scenario. We can translate these rulings into a strategic framework for future M&A integration. First, broad management removal rights are a liability when an earn-out is active. Agreements must strictly define and document for-cause termination events to prevent claims of sabotage. Second, informal internal communication is the true legal record. Internal task forces and AI prompts create a paper trail revealing intent, regardless of the contract. Third, effort clauses frame how a judge interprets behavior. Ambiguity can turn a standard business pivot into a contract breach. Judges prioritize the underlying intent of the deal, often bypassing technical loopholes to enforce the original spirit of the bargain. Using structural control to evade a payout is high risk. In gaming and beyond, it can transform a successful acquisition into a legal and operational failure.